All right, it is time for the John Riggins Show. And hard to believe, but it is March. March 2022. Things are looking up. We're starting to get maskless. We've got a warm streak here that's going to last for a day or two. I think we're going to get into the 60s.
Today, yes.
I'm feeling good. Here's Riggo.
All right, Todd, let's start off the segment. I think we're going to start a segment here on the show called the Grumpy Old Man segment because I don't know. This getting old is killing me. And it's getting old. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you just mentioned, really, the Achilles heel, the mask. I thought that last night, the big guy, as he's known in the inner circles of Burisma, I thought he said we were getting rid of the mask.
Hunter or Joe?
No, the big guy would be
Joe.
Yes.
Our president.
He said we're getting rid. And so I got to go to the doctor this morning, and I get halfway up the hill, not down the hill, wouldn't make any difference. And I go, oh, I forgot my mask. I got to walk all the way down to the car, and I'm kind of crunched for time. I didn't want to be there late.
Which jurisdiction are you in? Maryland,
yeah,
Virginia,
I'm in Maryland.
or
Supposedly
D.C.?
we're maskless.
Yeah, Montgomery County.
Yeah, but everybody gets to say what they want to do. The county says, no, you don't need a mask. But at the same time, you go into a business goes, oh, you need a mask. So I was going to the doctor's office. Sure enough, I get to the doctor's office. Everybody's got a mask on, so I did the right thing. But we got to get rid of these goddamn fucking masks. I'm telling you. I've had enough of this bullshit. It's like, I can't. I mean, we've been on had them for 2 years. Well, I guess that tells you something about my... Well, I guess this would be long-term memory. I've had 2 years to realize every time I get out of the car, I should have a mask with me, but do I? Most of the time I do. This morning, I'm thinking I'm going to be late, so I'm kind of
You've been very diligent. You've been far more diligent than I.
Yeah, well, anyway.
I mean, I try.
Yeah, anyway, and I suppose the reason I'm... It's the grumpy old man because I literally have a pain in my neck, and that's where I was going to see this doctor. And, we get to the end of the deal, and he tells me, I think I'm going to try this where they're going to inject some platelets into my neck, blood platelets, where they go in, they pull some blood out of it, and they spin it or do whatever they do, and then draw it out. I got to tell you the truth, though, Todd. I'm a little apprehensive about this because I'm thinking needles in the neck. Needles in the neck. I ain't particularly scared of a needle. I mean, I'm not going to jump in front of the line to get my blood drawn. But at the same time, I can handle it. But I always get a little apprehensive about that stuff. But he says, well, which I haven't heard of for years because the dentist used to have it, nitrous oxide. You know, did you ever have nitrous?
Yes.
And
Come on, Dennis Hopper.
Is that what he had?
Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet, that was nitrous?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I don't know about that stuff. I got to the point when I used to go to dinner and say, yeah, give me the nitrous. I was looking forward to it. And I got to the point where it's kind of making me nauseous and stuff. I'm going, I don't know. So I'm kind of torn. Maybe I self-medicate before I get there. I got to get into my pharmacy that I got at home, look in there and see, okay, what do we got
here? RX.
But then I'm thinking, yeah, but that you might screw something up. You got to at least call the doctor and tell him that you might be taking some kind of pain medication for it. Anyway, so I got that to look forward to here in about a month. I also want to bring up the fact that I was going to come in today because last night was like a deal breaker almost. Well, it was for the night. You know, I have sleep apnea. You do too, for that matter, right? So I got to have the Dennis Hopper.
You're back to.
I look like an elephant. I look like a baby elephant, particularly when I disconnect it because I got a little trunk hanging down. Yes. And so last night, I've been experiencing, which you have, I think, over the past. You know, I also, I was going to bring all this stuff in here with me and suit up in front of the camera so people could get a load of me. But then I'm thinking, I don't know. I made some people really kind of nervous last time when I talked about getting a colonoscopy. Yes. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is too much information people don't need to know or see. I'll at least talk about it. If we get enough feedback that you want to see the Elephant Man get suited up and ready to go out on stage, I'll bring it in next week or whenever, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. But you see, my lovely wife, she stays up till about 1 in the morning reading when we turn the TV off, and I can go to about 11. On some nights, maybe I'll go to midnight watching a little TV or whatever, but then I got to shut it down, right? So, because I got to have in the morning with Coco and get her off to school. So I put in earplugs so I can't hear her over there typing on the computer or rustling around and all that stuff. I put on a blindfold so I can't see the lights that are on. Now I also, my dentist, because I grind my teeth, I have to wear a night guard, so I got to put in the night guard. So now I've got to put on the mask over the blindfold, and so because for whatever reason, last couple 3 months, I have been waking up in the middle of the night, and it's the Sahara Desert in my mouth. God, I hate that feeling. I just hate it. And I've gotten to the point where I can go and, kind of whip up some saliva real quick, but it ain't no fun. And then I got water on the nightstand, but then I got to take all the crap off of it and put it. It's like, it ain't no fun trying to get some sleep, but I love to sleep. So
I don't think you wore this much getting ready for an NFL game.
No, hell no. I didn't wear near this much equipment. I did have a mouthpiece, so I'm kind of used. But I got to get a thinner night guard. This thing's ridiculous because I think that's what's kind of making my mouth go open. So last night, now I get all this other stuff on. Now they have, and I've had it for quite some time, but I kind of went, oh, this is ridiculous. But I thought, I don't want to have a dry mouth tonight. This ain't going to work. So I have this thing where it's basically a thing you strap. It goes under your chin, up here, Velcro up here, and it's got a little strap behind it. So now, it's like I got the blindfold on, and I got all the other accoutrements, and now I'm trying to fumble around, trying to figure out how this thing goes on my head. Finally, I get it. I strap it on, and now I'm down. I've got all this stuff just like I'm almost like a mummy. I'm just like been mummified, and I'm telling you, Todd, 15 minutes, bullshit. And I did. I took it off, and I went, what do they call it, commando last night. Okay. I said, no, I did to hell with this. So I got to get my mind right. I was just like.
Lisa Marie's like, broken arrow. I'm taking him out. She's like, here, put the blindfold on, your mask. Here's a cigarette, because I'm taking him out.
That would have been fine with me. I've had enough of it. I don't know what to do, but, I think there may be good news out there. Supposedly, there's some little box.
Yeah.
God only knows how it works. The only part with that is, I'm afraid, it's kind of like that guy with the hose that says, men. And he walks off and drops the mic, and they show the fire hose open, guys that can't pee. But I think it's kind of like that. They don't tell you that ain't a pill that you take. That, it's not some kind of stuff you spray in your nose. This is where it's a procedure that they do. They don't tell you that. So I'm thinking with this other thing for the sleep apnea, they probably, they got to implant some kind of a radio, like a transmitter box in your head or something.
It's shocking your ass.
I got no idea. In other words, like a lot of things in life, Todd, it's too good to be true. And if it is too good to be true, what do they say? It probably is.
Well,
right?
I knew you had a lot going on because we shared. Because I went back like 12 years ago. I was an early apnea, and I did all that. And then I had physical surgery, and now and I went back to the machines. But now I got a dental appliance. Seems to be doing better. But I think we're going to have to wheel you in like Hannibal Lecter on.
And the hockey mask? That's probably what I look like last time. I'm going to tell you something. I might bring it in. Like I said, if we get enough feedback, I'll strap up.
I'm not sure the studio's big enough.
I might need an assistant, though, because I'm telling you, it took me a while to figure this out. Because I can't see, so I never wear it, so I'm going, wait a second, I know this goes like this. Oh, and I got to put that behind my head. But anyway, yeah. By the way, you did tell me about the surgery. The only thing I want to know about that was the painkiller. Dilaudid, was that what the...
Oh, yeah. But let me tell you something.
I'd like to take that before a game.
I've never, because the surgery, the doctor
Back of your throat, right?
Yeah, well, I never had my tonsils out for one. He said my throat. He said, I'm doing a facelift for the inside of your throat because you never had your tonsils out. Note to all the boys and girls out there, get your tonsils out as a ute and not in your 50s because I was told how painful this was going to be. Then
tonsils, that ain't a big deal.
Well,
when you're an adult,
it is. When you're an adult.
That's like a good friend of mine who was a backup quarterback for the Jets. He got circumcised like at age 30 or 29 or something like that. And I think he said the same thing. He started getting a little beef, and it's like, oh. So, yeah, go ahead with the tonsils coming out.
Well, that was part of the procedure, and then they shaved back my uvula, and they cut all kinds of stuff out, and they said, now, this is going to be extraordinarily painful afterward. When it was
you knew
so
that
bad,
going in?
Yeah, but you don't really have a healthy appreciation for it because then they tell you afterwards, I couldn't swallow ice. That's how bad it was. All they could do was rub ice on my lips, and that's how.
And then what? You had an IV to keep your keep you hydrated
for like 2 days, just of pure
swallowing
hell.
must have been.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't. If
How do you
tried,
keep yourself from swallowing? That's like it's a reflex. I can't control it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you did, it'd be like, oh,
it's a great weight loss program because you ain't eating and you don't want to eat. You do not want to swallow.
So they're feeding you through a tube in your belly?
Pretty
like
much.
Pretty
much.
That sounds like a lot of
It
fun.
sucks, though, because you need your sleep. When we learn more about sleep and how restorative it is and how important it is, and it can prolong your life. And
exactly.
If you go around with the apnea for a long time, you are taking years off. It's not not
that's
good.
exactly right. That's what I've been told. And the other thing is, I've noticed, that I mope around. I don't have a lot of energy during the day, which I hate that. I mean, every once in a while, like the other day, I'm walking someplace, and I'm going, hey, I feel pretty good today. But yesterday it was like, couldn't wake up. I couldn't wake up.
Right.
I don't know what that's about. Anyway, speaking about waking up, something crossed my mind the other day. I've talked about this in the past, but it was one of those things where I got to thinking, it just seems like in this day and age, and I know there's part of this I've got that figured out, which in the beginning I realized, well, most entertainment industries don't really do anything for the audience. That's my guess. It's like, well, we're making money. You mean we're going to lose some money if we do that? No, we ain't going to do that, right? That's what we're doing. I get that.
Yeah.
That's capitalism. But I've often thought, when you look at sports teams and how much talent is on the field and the money that's invested in all that talent, there's that, I believe somewhere is in our Constitution somewhere that, when you're in, you got to go before the man, with the powdered wig and the robe, that you're going to be judged by a jury of your peers, right? So if you kind of, what do you call that, transition into the sporting world and you get into the judgment aspect, that's where you get into the officials. Whether it be basketball, baseball, hockey, football. Now, I can only speak about football because I'm not that well versed on the other sports. But it would appear that what I'm getting ready to say is factual, and that is that at any given moment, I'm guessing, when you take into the account the amount of money that the players are making nowadays, you start with your quarterback, who probably, if he's a half-ass quarterback, he's making at least $1 million. A game. I'm talking about a game.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification.
Half-ass quarterback making $1 million.
Well, yeah.
Top flight, he's making $2 million.
A game.
Yeah, a game. This ain't total salary.
Right.
Now. This is just a game. So you just go on down from there, and you're going to get down to where you got players that are making $500,000 a game, and so that's a guy that's maybe he'd be getting paid $8 million a year, and then you probably get down to guys like $50,000. I don't know if you get. Yeah, I would think nowadays even guys that cover punts are probably making $50,000 a game.
Yeah, I mean the minimum
it's what, $400,000 or something
nah,
like that?
it's more than that, John. I want to say it's over 600. I want to say it's 625, something like that now.
Have to do the
Off
quick
the new
math on
CBA.
660. But anyway, let's just say you got 11 and 11, right? So you got 22 guys out there. Between the two of them, I didn't really do the numbers I should have, but I'm going to guess you got $100 million invested on the field at the moment, right?
Easy.
And it's probably more than that.
Easy.
And yet, the very thing that the game hinges on is another team, and that's the team of officials. And these guys are all part-timers. I just don't get that aspect of it, particularly when you have a game that's basically antitrust, hands-off by the government. But now if one of those players takes a bribe from somebody, he's going to go to jail, right? So it's like, ref, you can't. It's entertainment. I mean, would you want to bet on the championship of the WWE? In other words, when they have their whatever it's going to be called, what do they call that? Or they have it nowadays on the end of the week. It's on Fox, I think, for previews.
It's their big deal, their Slam Fest or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just say,
it's their Super Bowl.
Yeah, in other words, when you have the heavyweight championship in the WWE, would you want to wager on that? You could. Why wouldn't you?
Sure.
But
it's rigged going in, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, you do, but the point about this is you don't know which way the writers took it.
100%.
So it's the same thing as gambling on a legitimate football game, wouldn't it be?
You would think.
except for the guys in Hollywood or wherever, I guess in Connecticut, that's where the headquarters are, except for those guys that actually know who the winner is and who it isn't.
They're farming it out to LA.
Kind of like the affirmation secret of a secret name of a franchise that was a secret.
It rhymes with salamander.
Yeah, that we got our butts reamed for by somebody that we won't mention. Anyway, so you go back to the official team out there. Those guys are probably making at most $5,000 each per game, at most.
I've done some research on it, and you're definitely in the neighborhood. Some of the more senior guys do make more than that. And everybody is basing data. I scoured the internet. And you know how close I've worked with the league for years.
Right.
And the latest information that's out there.
There's not a lot, correct?
Not a lot at all. And it was a formula off
Player
of the last.
salaries are all over the place.
Yes.
Get enough of
well,
that
the
because
collective
it's so
bargaining
glamorous.
agreement is public knowledge. And the only information you could slightly get off of that was some of the language was in the previous CBA. But the average salary of an NFL official is $188,000.
So he makes $200,000.
Let's round it up to 200.
Okay, so he's actually making over $10,000 a game.
Yeah, that's the average
And
now.
some could be making $20K.
Exactly, but that's the problem. Median is always a better, in my opinion, that because
Yeah.
you do have some that are making $5,000 a game, and the senior guys, right?
Yeah, it just seems to me. Now it's interesting because today's Wednesday. Yesterday, I believe the NFL Combine started. I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, which I was completely unaware of.
The underwear Olympics have begun.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I always thought it was in April. Now they moved it all the way up to March, so they got something coming probably for you in April. But
It's called the draft.
that's in April. Okay, then after April, you got to go May, June, then July. So you got to go 2 months cold turkey.
No, May's mini camp time, and rookies can report. And
Where have I been all these years? Man, I have went to sleep.
you
My
really check.
apologies.
Once you stop playing, man, you're like, I'm done with this mafia.
Yeah. Anyway, but anyway, this occurred to me that how can you have and once again this is good. This is what entertainment is. I learned this Bill Esper in my acting classes in New York. It's all about creating the illusion. This is when you think about it, even the actual instant replay and when they throw the yellow flag and they want to look at it again, they're going to say, well, we're going to challenge. That, too, is all about creating the illusion that this is. At some point, you have to accept the fact that it ain't going to be the way you think it's going to be. They're going to make a decision. The same people can look at it. You'll get a guy that actually was a former NFL official. He'll look at the replay, and he says this. And the guy in New York that they have or whatever, he'll say something else. It's like, go figure, he's looking at the same thing. So my point is that's a whole nother element that you get into when you bring this other extraneous things into the game, as opposed to what about instead of a bunch of old white and black dudes running around trying to keep up with a bunch of white and black young dudes.
There are some females now.
They have, and well, I guess a dude could be a woman. I'm going tranny on this. Do I hear tranny? Can I get a vote here? I'm just saying, let's just throw it out there.
We're all one people.
Let's just say
Kumbaya.
LBGQ, and I think there's an X on the end of that. I'm not sure. I thought I heard somebody say that the other
I
day.
think today there probably is.
Anyway, getting back to what I'm trying to tell you is that, and this is when I realized, well, if it's going to cost them money, it ain't going to happen. I'm saying if you had, to me, it only makes sense. Jury of your peers, right? Well, these old farts ain't nobody's peer out on that field. I mean, seriously, if you're going to have a combine for your referees. See how fast they can run a 40. See what kind of vision they have. See what kind of reflexes they have. And I've often said this, and I remember I'm doing this with some radio people, and their names won't be mentioned. They go, well, what would they do year round? I said, well, they'd be like the players, wouldn't they? They could lift weights, they could look at film, they could do all kinds of stuff to get themselves to where they're honed, to where when they made a call, you wouldn't be thinking that he's got a big case he's got to try on Wednesday. So he's just kind of working this game in on Sunday so he can get back and try whatever case he's got later in the week. It just, to me, like I said, this is all about creating the illusion, and it's all bullshit. when it's all said and done. I mean, if you want facts, if you're trying to go, and I think the NFL, they try to do this, but in the effort of giving you the best product, they're missing they're taking a big whiff, as far as I'm concerned, with the current officiating system. And and no offense to the old guys, they know the rule books forwards and backwards, as Bruce Stagner once said about Herb Harden, mainly backwards. I always loved that. We were in Little League Baseball, and he goes, and here's Herb Harden. Herb, he knows the rules forwards and backwards. Bruce Stagner, mainly backwards. Which he was
Midwestern
right.
humor, boys and girls.
He was right
Still
about
the best.
that. Bruce, you killed it on that one. But I look at this. It's not a big deal, really, but it's just one of those things when you look at something. This is what I've done my whole life to a certain extent. You look at stuff and you go, well, that's bullshit. Why are you doing it that way? I mean, I'm kind of on a roll here, and it would be kind of like when I went to Joe Gibbs back when we used to go to Carlisle and training camp. And I remember I went to Joe and I said, Joe, why am I practicing in the morning? I don't do anything. That's when we do all the passing. It was last time you saw me in there on third down, Joe. You haven't, have you? I'm not part of the passing game. I said, why don't I go lift weights, run, do whatever, get some conditioning and do all that stuff? He was like, it was just too logical. It made too much sense. I literally just stood and watched these guys. Well, it's 7-on-7, 11-on-11, whatever. I'm not in there. It was a passing game. Finally, he relented. I think the second time I broached the subject with him before one of the training camps. And then, it evolved into something else, then it changed. But the point is that it just seems like some things to me, when you notice it and you see it, and it just seems logical to me. Now, I'm sure if we had Roger the Dodger in here, he would say, what are you talking about, John? You're just so silly sometimes.
Well, no, because you think outside the box, and you think, and you analyze the situation and say, well, wait a sec. This is a $18 billion a year industry. $18 billion, going up on its way to $25 billion, they're predicting in the next 5 years based on all the new revenue sources. So you mean to tell me out of all the other professional leagues where everybody else is basically full-time, because you bring up a great point, John, and I looked at some of the careers that these referees have, and let's face it, most of them, because they want guys that have been put through the ringer and they're like the best of the best, and their minor leagues are basically major college football. That's where they poach. And by the time you get to that, you're pretty much late 40s and your 50s. Okay, for a guy that's in that physical position, that's why the NBA went from 2 refs to 3 refs. The athletes were bigger, the game was faster, they needed another perspective because they were missing so much. So an industry that relies on these guys to protect the superstars, the lead dogs, as much as they change the rules.
Or to get the calls right, where I'm.
Well, 100%.
That's what I'm talking about. So fans can go, and they're not. You would, and I think you would have a better comfort level with it. But then I'm not sure, because when it comes to creating the illusion, doesn't the older, wiser, making decisions? Because these are judges.
Yes.
One of them's called a back judge, line judge. They're
field
judges.
judge.
So I might as well put robes on these guys. Give them a powdered wig. Now I get it, guys.
Once again, ahead of the curve.
Huh?
And I like your referee combine. Do you know how many people would actually tune in and watch that?
Oh, it might be pretty scary.
That
I
would
might
be
have just once
hysterical.
again. I send the NFL another kiss. It's like, hey guys, come to me. I'm an idea guy. I'm the shell answer man. You remember him?
An NFL referee combine. Now, that would be hysterical.
Exactly.
Because
coming out of college, getting ready to try out for the NFL to see if they're going to pass muster, get them all together for a combine. But I can't see how it could be. I just don't see how it could be. A lot of them, how you would miss on this, because how many of these guys try out and they don't make it? Well, they can run. They got good eyes. They can do it. They play the game. Now all they got to do is learn a rule book, right? Once you learn the rules, you're good to go. I just think it would be an improvement to the game by quite a bit, honestly. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you could sell it, because I think people in the back of their mind going, I want the old guy that's been doing this his whole life. But he's also the old guy has never dedicated his life to this. Anybody that's any good at anything pretty much dedicates themselves to that, and that's all. You don't, you're not multifaceted. Doctors today, lawyers today, everybody's a specialist.
To your point, in researching the full-time jobs of a lot of these NFL officials, like you said, there's one that is a head of a significant law firm. There's CEOs of various companies. There's a couple of dairy farmers. So you've got the range. Here's a
dairy farmer. That scares me. Because them cows got to get milk.
That's right.
Twice a day, morning and night. This guy, he's out there. He's got cows on his mind. I'm telling you. I don't want to know who it is.
Do you realize? So they have toyed with the idea, and this is 2018. The NFL hired 24 full-time game officials. So they wanted to experiment, and they did, and they have. They have now scaled that program back.
They didn't like what they were getting.
They have scaled it back. Now, this is on the NFL operations, and it's got everything. There is some more transparency there to a point. So there's a whole thing about officials and how they're chosen and the qualifications and the rigorous training they go through. And I do know, because in knowing Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino and Mike for many years, that their critiquing of every single play of every single game for every single official is real, and that you can do so much of that, but again, you're trying to eliminate it in real time.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a whole different ball. It's just like a player himself.
Right.
You're going to make a physical mistake out there. The mental mistakes, they got to go immediately, otherwise you go. But the physical mistakes, if you got the horsepower, it's just a matter of training your what do they call that? Muscle mass. You know what I'm saying?
Muscle memory?
Muscle memory to do it the right way, every time.
Right. Here's the technique. Master the technique.
And to me, I know for a fact, folks, old is not good when it comes to making decisions.
You think you're in referee shape?
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
Riggos is still showing off.
I ain't still running 4.45. I run 4.45. I can keep up with most of it. No, hardly.
I think you could outrun them backwards. All right, so
mainly backwards.
A couple other data points here. So I'm on the NFL official site, and again, it gives you a breakdown of how they're chosen, the criteria, the training that goes involved, and how important this is now more than ever, and replay. And here is from Alberto Reveron, Senior Vice President. Now, they're talking out of both of the officials.
Oh, okay.
And his direct quote, and they got this highlighted: if you don't prepare 30 to 35 hours a week for 3 hours on Sunday, you cannot do it effectively. You will not survive in the National Football League. Now, if you're working at your full-time job, let's go 40, 35, 40 hours, and then you got to prepare another 40 hours based on his quote. Do you get to sleep?
And that's what we just established is critical.
And aren't you sleep deprived on Sunday?
What do you do when you're sleep deprived? You veer off the road and kill somebody or yourself.
Or you get a quarterback that your star. But that's their quote. If you don't prepare 30 to 35 hours for 3 hours, and you cannot do
bullshit.
it,
you're right.
It's actually you cannot do your job effectively, and you will not survive in the National Football League.
Well, I think that's called propaganda, Todd. I think that's first-class propaganda.
Now, Jerry Jones, old Jerry, right? Jerry just came out, and this was an interview from earlier this year of 2022.
Wasn't after the old goat that couldn't get to the ball in time that killed them from getting one more play in the playoffs.
No, because
okay, this is prior to that.
Because they were challenged about the possibility of making NFL referees. So he has old Jerry, he's got his own show in Big Dallas. Mm-hmm. And on 105.3 The Fan, he said, we just don't have enough support to have the conclusion that full-time would remedy the issues that we're complaining about. There's nothing that says a full-time official do better than a part-time official.
Well, listen, when you get down to it, listen, it's a business. It's business here. And the business is this thing's working. We're raking in money. It isn't, if they're honest, they would just come out and say, look, we could do a lot better. But you're buying what we're selling. Why do we need to be new and improved?
It's all controlled up in New York anyway, so get over yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, That's the bottom line. But I just thought I'd kind of point that out.
Upon further review.
Yeah, grumpy old man.
Okay, so.
Well, that wasn't really grumpy.
No, that's factual.
That was like, you look at it and go, is this what I'm seeing? Is that really the way it's supposed to be? I don't know. Could be better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so juxtapose that with the extraordinary salaries of NFL broadcasters and the play-by-play and the colormen doing their job. And, Tony Romo,
he has hit it out of the park.
He did. He came in, I believe, at $17 million a year for 5 years.
His rookie year.
No, it was just redone this going into last
last
season.
See if he would stay with who is he?
Yeah, he was being lured away by everybody. So he's CBS.
Yeah, but ESPN was after him.
Yeah, everybody was. And so he and Jim Nantz, the lead crew. So here we are now, and with Amazon getting in the rights game, and Amazon paid I think it's over $1 billion just for Thursday Night Football.
So they own Thursday Night Football now?
Yes, I believe Amazon. Starting this next year they have it.
Should I run home and check my answering machine to see if I got a call from Amazon?
No, you probably check I think they'd hit you up on your Amazon Prime account. Hey, Riggo, go to your cart. We got an offer for you.
Okay.
Either that or Whole Foods.
Okay, but I don't want to get into that. You never know. Don't want to say something here that could come back to haunt me.
All good. So there must be something, because you didn't play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, because Troy Aikman just got a record deal. He just beat out Tony Romo. He got $19 million a year.
To stay with Fox?
No, he jumped ship and is going to ESPN.
Really?
Yeah.
Who will he be paired with?
He wants his boy Joe Buck, and Buck's deal is coming up. So it's a new wild, wild west, because the rumors are Al Michaels possibly going to Amazon and taking
from NBC
for Thursday Night Football. And
well, that's his schedule, so he's probably got other stuff to do on the weekend.
Now it's rumored with McVay, Coach McVay, your Super Bowl winning LA Rams, that Amazon offered him $100 million for 5 years to leave coaching and come and join him in the broadcast booth. Think about that. $100 million.
He must be Mr. Get in front of a camera and he just lights things up.
36, I believe. Young. He's got the entire package. Just won the Super Bowl. The height of his earning power. There's so much money out there in this. And he has since come out and said, no, I'm not interested. But
I'm like
thank
a chicken.
you.
I'm over here scratching in the dirt. That ain't right, Todd. Damn. God, that's amazing when you bring that up, because that's really where it gets kind of weird. Doesn't it? Like you say, he's 36 years old.
Yeah.
And he could perhaps for 5 years he could knock out 100. What poor Gruden? What's he thinking right now? It's like, man, you got to be careful when you do this.
Yeah. So apparently Fox is might make a run also at McVay. You got Sean Payton, coach down at the Saints, that he's already in talks with the money.
Has he retired?
He's saying he's not retiring. He's stepping aside. He's going to take a year or two off. As a couple, he's rumored for basically any job he wants, from to be the Dolphins head coach in a couple years to this.
Yeah,
so
he's got the chops.
But it's amazing the money that is, and for me, and what's interesting is the fan sentiment for a lot of this, because Troy Aikman doesn't wow anybody, in my opinion. I think he's very good at his job, but do you really care of who's broadcasting the game? Do they bring that much value to it?
That's a great question. I have no idea. You would have to make, I guess the case would be a lot stronger to say that the play-by-play guy actually is the guy who carries the game. And he's also the one that has to set up the color guy, right? Mm-hmm. That's the way it works. I mean, I've done a little bit of this stuff. But I'm 100% in agreement with you, unless somebody's just awful. But then a lot of times you find color guys, you go, how did he get this job?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
and what's his name? I guess he must have done a hell of an audition, a Romo, because the year he retired, and that I think he was I forget, it was in the millions. I mean, it was no training, no nothing. He went right straight with Jim Nance, and he was number one. Which, when you do stuff like that, once again, it gets back to what you're saying. How does a guy just coming out of the game who, let's be honest with you, I think in his entire career, Dallas won 2 playoff games, maybe.
Yeah.
2. I thought maybe it was 0, and I think I looked.
Rather pedestrian career, pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And
Pretty good.
But my point is that and as soon as you retire from football, you've got all these other guys that have been in your stable that have been doing this for years. Nobody gets promoted. This guy just goes in like a first-round draft pick and now. Granted, he's good, right? I don't care.
He is.
I don't.
He
really
is.
care
But he made his bones coming out in the broadcasting booth because he was. I'm predicting the play before it happens, which now is kind of like, okay, enough already. We get it, okay? We get it. You recognize the coverage, you recognize the plays, and everybody was oohing on and off of that. And I think that part, and he's settling back in because I think it was too much of that. Younger fans loved it, thought it was tremendous. But
I didn't see enough of it to really be able to appreciate it.
But that's how he made his bones and the reputation he got. Now take the Manning cast with Peyton and Eli. They just re-upped ESPN for that because that's proven to be a hit as an alternative broadcast to Monday Night Football.
What do they do?
So
they actually do the play-by-play in color and all that stuff. In other words, you can watch
it's
that.
You and me right now with the game going on, but talking about the game experience, and they bring in a guest every quarter from.
Could be anywhere.
Bill Parcells to Kevin Hart to The Rock to LeBron James. So they were looking for an alternative broadcast outside of the normal broadcast booth and a 3-man traditional booth for a younger audience.
They recreate a bar scene for the most part without the drinks or whatever.
100%.
And they watch the game and go, God damn,
and it was jarring to anybody 45 and older because it was that jarring. The game's going on, and half the time they'd be lost or they wouldn't be. They talked all over each other, and it was a bit of a mess. But it had its entertaining moments too. And so they've re-signed them to do. So everybody's looking for the next big hot thing. But it gets back to the Dallas Cowboys and their brand as America's team and what that means and how often they're on TV and the ratings. Because I'll still take Dandy Don Meredith as the best color guy as a former Cowboy quarterback.
He'd have to be right up there at the very top.
The lights are out.
And you know what's interesting about that is I would be willing to bet Dak Prescott will be the next guy that will roll right in.
They'd be licking their chops. He's got
the whole package.
And he's got his sleep number mattress going too, so he's rested. He's feeling good.
Does he have sleep apnea?
not
I guess if that mattress, maybe.
There you go. I got to get you a mattress.
I got to get a different mattress. All right, Todd. Been fun. Riggo out.